Bill Bethelite here, and we're going to talk about the falling tower. We're going to talk about this organization that keeps on collapsing. Every time you turn around, they're doing something else that is detrimental to their own organization. And we're going to highlight a few of those things here. I had a few people, some elderly women, come and bring me this slip of paper, which was like an invitation to memorial. It was interesting. Hello. It was interesting that these ladies came by and brought me these pamphlets. It used to be back in the day, and this is what we're talking about, the falling tower, that it is a fact that Watchtower is falling or has already fell. Back in the day, you would have carloads of people. You'd have carloads of people getting out at the corner of a block, drop off about 4 or 5 people or more, take the rest of the people to another part of the block, and you would just see Jehovah Witnesses everywhere. There'd be like 10 Jehovah Witnesses. Well, a few days ago, I saw a car pull up, and I never see Jehovah's Witnesses out anymore. Like literally never see Jehovah's Witnesses out anymore. And there were like 4 older ladies. 2 of them went to the far side of the block, so only 2 people to work a whole street. The other 2 came to this side. And then again, you had just 2 people to work the whole street. Well, these elderly ladies came up and brought me one of those invitations to the memorial, which I don't think is important. I don't think it's as important as I used to think it was years in the past. Again, the tower is falling because years in the past, I'm talking years and years and years and years ago, I think that there was a thought, not amongst a lot of people, but amongst a few people. There was a thought that, what if Watchtower is right? Watchtower could possibly be right. And those people would either be going to the memorial in order to try to keep their family happy or to try to keep a foot in because they're worried, oh my goodness, Watchtower could be right. Well, now, in our day and age, I don't think it's even a possibility. I don't even think it's a possibility that Watchtower could be correct. So there's really no reason. There's no reason at all to attend the memorial unless you're one of the types of people who like to disrupt. You like to go to the memorial to disrupt the memorial. Well, now that's a different thing entirely. And I'm trying to get things to where I can see the comments. But of course, I talked to the 2 older ladies, and I'm talking, these ladies were in their 60s. And I think to a certain extent, not with everybody, but they could have been in their 70s because they couldn't even hardly get up on the porch to hand me the pamphlet. There's to a certain extent, you get to a certain age where people start to become more childlike. And Jehovah's Witnesses are childlike to start with. A lot of Jehovah's Witnesses are essentially just children in adult bodies. This thing is not letting me see the chat here. Oh, it's connecting. But now you got all these people handing out all these memorial invitations, and I haven't done it yet, but I was going to get on YouTube to see if people have crashed the memorial yet, and watch some of that entertainment. But I don't have, hey, what up? Somebody said, CJ says, what up? I don't know who Daryl is. Somebody else, Mr. Sub. That's why I'm trying to get it on the, there we go. I'm trying to get on a bigger screen so I can actually see it. Regina Lori says, yay, I called a live. I need to start doing it like in the future, where I set it at a time in the future so people know when it'll go live. But we're just talking about the fall of the tower. Watchtowers fall from where they used to be, and where they used to be was never a firm, established religion. Watchtower has always been one of the smaller religions. Well, now they're darn near non-existent. Like, these people are losing court cases in other countries and losing the funding that they had and the standing that they had. You got all of Russia that don't want them. I don't think they ever did well in China. You got a lot of countries that are, predominantly Muslim. A lot of them ain't putting up with them. And Jehovah's Witnesses don't even really do well in the United States of America. And in the United States of America, you can have complete, total baloney as far as cults are concerned, and they'll make it an established religion. Scientology is an example. I mean, if you can't do well in America, and America is like the cult headquarters, then something is definitely wrong. And one of the things that has always been with Watchtower is leadership. Their leadership has been horrible. That cult has got the worst leadership of any cult that I'm aware of. There aren't too many cults that get on their own broadcast and embarrass themselves and undermine their own teachings like the Falling Tower does. For example, the latest rendering where one of the governing body members gets up on the broadcast and says, the governing body has decided X, Y, and Z. And if you really break it down, you got to break it down to really see why this is so important. Because these are new people. These are newer governing body members. They weren't even probably around when Watchtower was in its heyday way back in the past. Somebody said, how do you feel about all the sudden changes they're making when in the Bible it says nothing was wrong with in the first place? For example, facial hair, women wearing pants, etc. That's what we're about to get into. Jehovah's Witnesses, for the longest time, one of their biggest shields, essentially, for their own teachings were to say that they never taught it. Jehovah's Witnesses would just lie about teaching that people shouldn't have gotten higher education. They just lie about it. Oh, we never taught that. Jehovah's Witnesses lie about a lot of the older teachings that they had back in the day. Oh, We never said that people shouldn't have kids. Back in the day, they did say people shouldn't have kids. And then those people ended up dying childless because back in the day, they were telling them the end of the world is so close that why have kids now? You just have kids in the new system. Well, they lied to all those people and then they just change and say, well, we never said that. Well, Watchtower can't say, well, we never said you couldn't have beards. They got up on the broadcast and admitted that for over 100 years, they're telling people that they couldn't have things that the Bible never said anything was wrong with. And they kept saying the governing body has decided. The governing body had decided. And in other words, Jehovah's Witnesses do not follow the Bible as God's guide. They follow a group of men called the governing body. Like the leadership of Jehovah's Witnesses are incapable of not putting their foot in their mouths. Somebody said, didn't think you were old enough to know about not having children. Yeah. I grew up in the cult of Jehovah's Witnesses. So I'm talking all the way down as a kid. I'm hearing, why have kids now? Isn't it so terrible? All the crime and all the killings and all the things that we have to worry about and the expenses of having children. This is what they were saying. This is not my opinion. They would say, why wouldn't you just, the new system is right around the corner. Why wouldn't you just wait until we're in the new system and then have children? So yeah, they were still saying it back when I was in. But I think there were publications like Millions Now Living Will Never Die and all kinds of things like that. And I've brought those things to the attention of elders, and they use what they always use, and that's the shield of, well, we never taught that. So the elder was saying, well, maybe the publication Millions Now Living Will Never Die, maybe it meant something else. It didn't mean those actual people would never die. Maybe it was talking about people in the future. Like they can't defend listening to teachings and traditions of men. For all these years, the beard rule was something that the governing body decided. It wasn't nothing that came from Jehovah. And that was the strength of the cult for so many years. Was their strength was to remove the president, remove the governing body from the main stage and make everybody think all this stuff is coming from Jehovah. Says old lies, new lies, can't believe people can't see false teachings. They see it. Marcus, have you heard that there is some pushback from some of the Kingdom Halls not allowing the new changes to happen? They are telling their congregation to hold off. I have heard that. And the other one, I still think women are horrible drivers. Just my opinion, though. I don't know what I got to do. With the cult, I don't think the cult's got a rule about women driving. Could there be a schism between the Morrisons and the just tick the box and have a beard witnesses? I don't know about a schism, but Jehovah's Witnesses have always had cliques, even if they're a larger clique. Jehovah's Witnesses have always had this. Back in the day, back when we used to have book studies, there was an elder that was somewhat popular in the congregation and he got into an issue, I guess, flirting with other women in the congregation. Well, they wanted to remove his book study from him. Uh, don't you know that they made the decision? The other elders made the decision that we're not going to have a book study over your house because it's bad enough you flirting with all these women at the hall. Then you get them to your house and you're flirting with them at your house. Well, the elder and his book study rebelled. They kept having the book study at his house. They kept having the book study at his house. Those people were following this elder. So, yes, you're going to have people who don't agree with the beard rule and the such, and they'll still not have beards. But the thing is they're not going to be able to do anything about the people who do grow beards. So will there be a schism? There's always been. Jehovah's Witnesses 100% lie about, oh, we're all in unison. We all agree. Somebody said, was he married? Yeah, he was married. Here's the thing. This elder, his wife barely came to the meetings. His wife barely came to the meetings. I guess she was baptized, but it was rare to see his wife come to the meetings. Typically, this is an elder, and he would be at the hall by himself. He was older. His kids weren't still in the house. So his kids were grown. Matter of fact, I don't think his son was going to the meetings very much either. But so the guy is at the hall. His wife isn't there. That's one of the reasons why he was just flirting like crazy. His wife was never going to see it because she went at that hall. Now, how he would be able to get away with it at his book study, I'm not sure. But the fact is, this man was about to walk out the hall, and his whole book study was about to walk with him, or the majority of them. The people that he had been friends with for 40 years in the organization was about to walk out with him. There's always schisms and issues amongst Jehovah's Witnesses. It's always been like that growing up. It's always been like that. There's people that they side with. There was an elder that was very popular growing up, that I knew growing up. I liked the guy. It was one of the elders that did my baptism questions. And this elder, because of his popularity, essentially did what he wanted to do. He sat down next to me and he didn't talk about what was in the book. You know, what the organization wanted him to talk about as far as my baptismal question. He sat down and talked to me about what he wanted to talk about. And he sat down and talked about how people keep getting in trouble because they're not married. And you got all these brothers that get baptized, they're not married. You know, this is somewhat of a small religion, you know, it's a small little group of people, and they end up going out, dating other people and having sex and yada, yada, yada. And he's telling me, literally, an elder telling me it's better for me to get married first, then get baptized, because he's telling me if you don't get married first, then get baptized, all you're going to do is just get baptized and get this fellowship. I'm sitting here like my mouth wide open, but this guy was older, been around, been an elder for forever. Everybody respected him and wasn't nobody going to say nothing about what this brother said. So there has always been schisms where somebody is like, I'm not really following this, and ain't nothing gonna happen to me because half the congregation gonna follow me. This elder used to get up on stage with a newspaper because he wanted to. You're supposed to go up on stage with what they had back in the day, the Kingdom Ministry. Just to prove, and sometimes I think he did it just to prove he could do what he wanted. He went up on stage with the newspaper, opened up newspaper and started talking about current events, and then open up the Bible and start talking about scriptures that he felt applied to those current events, and nobody did nothing. I doubt the other elders, reported him or anything, because they're gonna lose half the congregation. If they do something to him, half the congregation gonna wake up. So yeah, there are people inside Watchtower that have enough influence and they have enough of a following. People are kind of following them. That's their favorite elder per se. And they are perfectly capable of disagreeing with something and ain't nothing gonna happen to them. So somebody said most elders are power intoxicated men, which is true. And that's one of the reasons why so many people stay in this falling tower. This thing is collapsing. And a lot of people stay in because of the type of person that they are. So think about it. If you're an elder and you notice all these teachings are changing, the rules are changing, everything is changing, everything is collapsing around you, why wouldn't you just leave? Well, one of the reasons why is because you ain't gonna have the same authority that you have anywhere else. Where else are you gonna go and have that same authority? Where else are you gonna go and you're gonna have a title? So a lot of elders stay not because they believe it's the truth still. Because I think a lot of elders know it's BS, especially once the governing body members get up on a broadcast and flat out say the governing body's deciding all this. It's a group of men deciding all this. It's not Jehovah. The organization's strength back in the day was the fact that people didn't even know who the heck the governing body was. They couldn't put their foot in their mouth because everybody thought everything was coming from Jehovah. So Jehovah was everything. Now the governing body's getting up on these broadcasts and saying, no, this is coming from us. This tower is going to collapse faster than ever before now. Tammy G said hello. This tower is going to collapse faster than ever did before, because if it collapsed and has been in recession for years, back when people thought all these teachings, everything's coming from Jehovah. They don't know how exactly, but they know it's got to be coming from Jehovah. Governing body just get up in front of everybody and say, no, it's coming from us. Oh, come on now. You done took the rug and yanked it off from up underneath your own following. Because your following now knows that not only have all these things been coming from the governing body, but they've been getting it wrong, and they've been wrong for over 100 years, and they just literally get up on a broadcast and say, well, all we did was read the Bible a little bit more, and now we understand this to being something totally different. Now, disfellowship people. Well, Somebody, Christopher Downing said Jehovah's Witnesses are not a cult. They are a tribe, and tribes are different from each other, but all are brothers no matter the label. I'm not sure I understand what you mean, because Jehovah's Witnesses are a religion. So normally if you have a religion and they ain't particularly following God, they're following men, and these men can tell people to shave their beard, put it back on, don't wear pants, don't take blood and die on the operating table. If these men can tell people whatever in the world they want, and they most likely going to do it, usually you're dealing with a cult at that point. Because you're dealing with a person who isn't even really focused on understanding that God and not man is a leader. Somebody says the emperor has no clothes. Yeah, they governing body is buck naked. All they got is a beard. They buck naked. But that's why I would call Jehovah's Witnesses a cult, because it's supposed to be a religion. And this religion has literally got up on a broadcast and admitted to the whole world, the governing body is just, everything that you believe is being decided by the governing body. It's not coming from Jehovah. That should right there be new light for Jehovah's Witnesses, because when I was growing up, we weren't supposed to have beards because Jehovah didn't want us to have, you know what I mean? People had other little different reasons they thought that was, but ultimately they thought it was Jehovah that we're being obedient to. Jehovah wants us to just stand out as different. The answer to everything was Jehovah, Jehovah, Jehovah. Well, the governing body getting up there saying, no, this is coming from us. Whoa, you know what I mean? Y'all done went full-blown cult. This ain't one of those things where we can confuse, oh, Jehovah leads this organization. No, they flat out said the governing body's doing all this. They're the ones leading y'all astray. Somebody said wear split pants and this will solve everything. Boy, I tell you, you're going to have sisters at the assembly wearing pants, and I'm all there for that. I'm here for it. It's going to be hilarious. You're going to have these people, they ain't going to know what to do, because you ain't got to wear a dress no more. And some people might not think dresses are comfortable. Some people probably feel like pants are more comfortable. You ain't got to wear a dress no more. And you got a lot of people that don't really like giving parts. As far as the women in the pants, Tammy says a good friend of mine left the cult in 2015, met for the first time after nearly 20 years, and told me she was no longer a JW, and Watchtowers crashing for, yeah, the people you would never think would leave are leaving. Somebody said, what happened? Can you rehash? I just joined. We're just talking about the fall of the tower. Watchtowers collapse. And one of the biggest things, and this is my opinion, one of the biggest things that are helping that collapse, the big wrecking ball that's coming and crashing in the Watchtower, is the governing body putting their foot in their own mouth. The governing body member that was standing up there with the beard talking about all that mess on the broadcast, he's a newer person. He ain't been around. The older governing body members know our strength, the strength of this entire religion, was that you had all these people thinking all this stuff was coming from Jehovah. Now, I don't know if because of legal reasons or the courts, if that's the reason why they had to get up there on the broadcast and say the governing bodies decided, the governing body decided, the governing body decided. Because the courts are probably wondering, are you telling all these people that God is telling them they can't talk to their relatives? You know, if you're telling people God is telling them that they can't talk to their relatives, well, no, this is a whole nother type of religious abuse. But if you're telling them, well, this is just a rule you have, and it's not necessarily coming from the Bible per se or coming from God, then that's different. And I think that's one of the reasons why they had to get up on the broadcast and say, hey guys, these are decisions made by the governing body. This ain't coming from Jehovah. Governing bodies deciding all this stuff. And these are just a group of men. So when these are not even particularly well-educated men, like these ain't people that's coming from no kind of Bible college or nothing like that. Somebody said birthdays will be next. I think that's one of the reasons why they had to do that. But in doing that, they probably underestimate the damage of getting up on a broadcast and flat out telling everybody this stuff is coming from, all this stuff is coming from the governing body. All this stuff is coming from the government. It ain't coming from Jehovah. So all their members can't sit around and say, well, Jehovah wants us to do this, Jehovah wants us to do that. No, the governing body wants you to do this, the governing body wants you to do that. And it's on a broadcast, so they can't say, oh, we never taught that governing body and not Jehovah is making all these decisions. My sister just got on. I finally caught you live. King David III says, what other changes do you think will happen? I think that this is just the first, not the first, but one of many series of changes, because if these courts are refusing, or these countries are refusing to give the cult money because they're saying you're too extreme, you have human rights violations, well, the money is everything. So they're going to try to appeal to these courts. And what they'll probably try to do is, over a period of time, get in compliance with the governments and get in compliance with what their requirements are for the cult to receive funding. So I don't think that they're going to try to do it all at once. I think they're going to try to break it up into a series of changes. So the first group of changes is, well, beards, you guys can have beards. You guys ain't got to wear no suit jacket. You ain't got to wear no tie. Women, y'all can wear pants if y'all want to wear pants. Matter of fact, when the disfellowship people come inside the Kingdom Hall, if your conscience allows it, in other words, if you want to, you go up and say hi to them. Now, they don't want you to go up there and talk to them the whole meeting, but you're allowed to go up and say hi to them. Somebody says you sound like the boar. I don't know who they're referring to, but resistance is futile. But King David says, I thought they weren't an organization. They would ask for money. I heard that for years, and all of a sudden they're making it a vital point as a JW to donate. Yeah, that's been for the longest time. They've been making changes, and they've been making changes mostly because of political reasons. Because back in the day, we used to have these little bags where they were for donations, and we would go from door to door, and every door we're supposed to ask for money. We're literally going from door to door asking for money. And something happened where I think the political sector wasn't viewing that in a positive light, and it probably would affect their ability to be tax-free, and that's when they changed all that. So the concept that Watchtower, this cult, makes changes if it affects their pocketbook is not a new one. So I think eventually they're going to be slack on a lot of things. It'll still be a cult. It may even be more cult-like. But I think a lot of the rules that they have, they're going to slack off on. And you got to understand how talkative some of these people are. So how are they going to police this stuff now? How are they going to police this stuff? Before, the way that the cult policed things were to flat out say you couldn't do it. You just darn near can't do nothing. Well, now they're going to let women wear pants. What pants can they wear? What pants can't they wear? You know what I mean? What styles can they wear? What styles can't they wear? They probably going to have to come out with watchtowers now talking about y'all can't wear certain types of pants and they can't fit not all tight and whatnot, because you know half these JW men watch porn and all this other stuff, and they wank off and all this other stuff. So if you got all these women coming to the hall and they all wearing pants now, and these pants are somewhat form-fitting or tight or something to that effect, you're going to have half the congregation ain't going to be paying attention to the meeting. So this is going to cause a problem, especially at the assembly, because now that it's out that people can wear pants, you got people that don't really go to the hall that often, but they do go to the assembly from time to time. Somebody says if a sister has curves, the local elders may outlaw pants. They may try. They may try, but they ain't going to be able to do a whole lot about it. The fact that they even had those rules is super culty, and that's another one of the things I was bringing out. That they always, all these culty things, they just always lie and say that they never had it. They lie and say, well, we never taught that you couldn't have higher education. They can't lie and say that they didn't have these rules now because they didn't got up on a broadcast and admitted all this stuff. They admitted all these rules. So somebody says, so what actually changed? I was an unbaptized publisher last summer before I left. Somebody said Rick Farron photographed a protest at a memorial last night. I am surprised they let someone inside to photograph. I'm going to have to check that out. Hello, Latanya. So what are some of the changes for people that are just now coming in and they don't really watch? Hey, Serenity's in the chat. They don't really watch the broadcast. Well, one of the changes was that men are allowed to have beards, and believe it or not, you got people standing next to carts with full-blown beards. I talked to a few of them. Grown men that just now allowed to wear beards, they're just now growing beards, and they were making fun of it at a meeting. Jehovah's Witnesses were even making fun of that stuff. Somebody recorded it. Somebody says, I live in Austin, let's go throw some disc golf. I don't know how to play disc golf. But another change was women were definitely not supposed to wear pants at no meeting. I don't think I ever saw, the only time I ever saw women wear pants at the meeting was when they had to go to work like right after. And they worked, where they worked, they had to wear a uniform. So they had to wear pants. That's the only time I ever seen women wear pants at a meeting. So, yeah, some people do look like they've been growing their beards for a while. Although it don't take a whole long time for, depending on how fast your facial hair grows. But somebody says I'm an apostate, not sure why my dad would call me. So that's what we kind of talking about is some of the changes. So yeah, how long before they allow LGBTQ? That could be coming. And boy, I tell you, if that comes, they gonna have to say this is from the governing body. They ain't gonna be able to say this is from Jehovah. So I'm telling you, it's collapsing. You seeing that it's collapsing. You seeing it with your own eyes. So the beards, the women wearing pants, the beard is gonna be an issue because you have people looking like full-blown Moses up in that bad boy. You ain't gonna be able to. Now you're gonna have to regulate beards. So they're eliminating rules, which is gonna cause more rules because they're gonna have to do something. Because now you're gonna have people growing these full-blown beards and getting up on stage. And then you're going to have other people trying to copy that. And they're going to try to grow their beard out as long as they can. You're going to have women wearing pants. They're going to have the high heels. They're going to have the suit pants on. Well, what's to stop women now if they can wear pants from wearing a suit jacket? What's to stop the women from doing that? You know what I mean? You know the suit jackets that women have. That basically women have suits. So if women can wear the pants, why can't they wear the jacket? They're not going to be able to say anything now. They're not going to be able to say. They're not going to be able to do anything because the governing body just allowed it. So even if the elders don't like it, women can wear the suit pants, the heels, or the boots or whatever, and that little the jacket, the suit jacket for women. So now you got women that can wear the suits. And there ain't gonna be nothing the elders can do about it. Matter of fact, some women might do it just out of spite for the elders. They may do it because they know the elders can't do nothing about it. The same with the brothers. They may grow their beard out so long birds are making nests in that bad boy. And they know elders can't really do too much about it. My sister says she can't wait until they let sisters start giving talks. That could be in the works, especially because they letting them wear pants now. You mean to tell me that's the only change they're going to make is the women can wear pants and they ain't changing nothing else? Why did they in specific make that change? Why did they make that change in specific? So that women can start wearing pants and maybe down the line, they might start putting women in positions that they wouldn't normally have put them in. Yeah, I think that's what she's talking about. Giving talks in the school, giving talks on Sundays and things like that. Because, of course, women can, their quote-unquote talk is a Bible study skit or pretending to be going door to door was all they was allowed to do. But they're going to be wearing pants now. They're going to be, you know what I mean? So they're going to be wearing the pants in the meetings. Yeah, exactly. Women didn't give talks. They only gave demonstrations. So these pants, I wouldn't underplay it. These pants could lead to other things. You know what I mean? Women wearing the pants and the suit jacket. Then once people get used to that, they could end up having women doing the sound. A woman sound servant. You know what I mean? Because before, the thought probably never really crossed a lot of the women's minds at the meeting. Some of them probably thought about, man, we ain't allowed to do nothing. But now they can wear pants. You mean to tell me the only thing women are allowed to do really is wear pants? Well, probably darn near all of them going to be wearing pants now. Carrying mics? If they can wear pants, why can't they carry mics? This ain't coming from Jehovah. This was coming from the governing body. It's coming from men. Why can't they carry mics? It's not like Jehovah's making any of these decisions and rules. It's just coming from a group of men. So why can't the men also decide that they can carry mics? Watchtower will be gone in less than 10 years. Watchtower is either going to be gone in less than 10 years, or this is about to be a different religion with the same name. They may have the name Watchtower, but their religion ain't the same at all. Which essentially means it's gone. It's gone. Beard is just to pacify. Somebody said, Bible is not word of God. How can God die? If Jesus was God, God didn't have beginning and end. Jesus never said, worship me rather than worship only God alone. There's no God. Oh, there's no God but Allah. You got, I guess, a Muslim in the chat. And, yeah, it's harder for the Jehovah's Witnesses to flourish in the Muslim countries, from my understanding. But that was a change. The beards, the pants, and I think both of those are going to be huge because of where it can lead to, what it can lead to. Not having to wear no suit jacket and not having to wear no tie. So now you got people chilling at the meetings now. You got the women in pants. You got the guys. They ain't got no jacket. They ain't got to have no tie, beard, chilling. You already know they ain't got to have no book bags really no more. They just got their tablets. Like this religion is darn near totally different. And when you talk about I'm reading some of the comments. When you talk about the disfellowshipping change, some people view that as a small thing. Like, okay, well, now you can just say hi to people when they are disfellowship. Like when they're coming in the hall, you just say hi, and then they go sit by themselves. You don't want to underestimate the effect that change can have, because there ain't no time limit really, and you got some people that they can't just say hi. So when you tell people it's up to their conscience, meaning they essentially can do what they want now, it's not a particular rule, you don't have people talking to some disfellowship people now. If nothing else, just out of sheer, Jehovah's Witnesses are nosy. Jehovah's Witnesses are some of the nosiest people on earth. Somebody said they know a 16-year-old that was just appointed a ministerial servant. How can he counsel anybody? There are 18-year-old elders at Bethel. That was like the first place I had met. Like he was either 18, 19, or 20, and he was an elder. And I found out essentially the glitch in the system was this dude didn't have to worry about having to give no talks, none of that stuff, because he was going to like a Japanese congregation. They had all of 5 people in that bad boy. So there's ways around things, you know what I mean? Where, so, I mean, you know what I mean? It's one of those things. But I wouldn't underestimate the change of you're now allowed to talk to disfellowship people. Yeah, they said you're supposed to say hello or greeting or something to that effect. But you got a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses that are headstrong. They kind of do what they want. And it's one of those things, you done gave them an inch. Somebody said, I can't believe people still believe in this goofy medieval bullshit. And yeah, you're going to have less and less. You're going to have less and less now. But yeah, I mean, you're going to have people that are going to go up and talk to disfellowship people. And it's going to depend on the congregation. It's going to depend on who they are. It's going to depend on how big their family is. Some people got huge family. And now you just told them that they could talk to such and such a person. And some people were talking to their relatives anyway. They just were kind of doing it behind closed doors. Now you done told them they can do it at the hall? Come on now. You think all these people are really just going to say hi, nice to see you, and that's it? No, how you been, what you been into? What about the younger people? By younger people, I mean in the 20s. Like, one of the biggest issues growing up in that cult, somebody said on the Spanish channel, and Incognito Bethelite said, birthdays, dating outside the Borg, and without a chaperone will all be okay. But if you get pregos before marriage, you be dead. One of the biggest problems growing up in that cult was your friends, like, so 1 minute your friends and you are inseparable at the hall. Next minute they disfellowship, you can't talk to them no more. To a certain extent, you ain't got nobody to talk to at the hall no more. Well, now you got all these younger people and they can go up and talk to their 21, 22-year-old friend. I mean, come on, it's going to be more than hi. It's going to be like, hey, you know what I mean? After the meeting, let's meet up on the game. You know, people can get on the game and get on the headsets and talk. Are you playing Madden after the meeting? Let's get together, play Madden after the meeting. There's no way this is going to stop at just say hi to somebody at the hall who's disfellowship. Because that's how people take it. People take it as, oh, that's not much of a change. All people could just say hi. You got too many Jehovah's Witnesses that they marbles ain't all there. You know what I mean? They gonna take that and run with it. They go, well, my greeting is different from other people's greeting. They're gonna be running up and hugging disfellowship people. And over time, the effect over time that could have is huge, because people are just going to get used to seeing disfellowship people coming in the hall getting hugged. Disfellowship people come in the hall, people still talk to them. I mean, what's the elders going to do? Sit there with a watch, looking at their watch, timing how long they talking to disfellowship people, that go over and pull them away? Or say, well, now you're disfellowship because you talked to them for a whole 10 minutes? Like, they are opening Pandora's box. They are opening Pandora's box. So, and it's going to essentially lead to the same thing that's been happening for years. Their principles are changing, their teachings are changing, they're losing members, and I don't think this is going to help with the membership. I think depending on the congregation, they can end up getting super lax with disfellowship people. Where, you know, yeah, it kind of means you ain't supposed to really hang out a whole lot, but this is my friend, you know what I mean? And I can talk to him at the hall. So I'm gonna kind of talk to him a little bit more outside the hall, you know what I mean? Over the phone now. You know, this could end up being bigger than what people think. So, yeah, this whole religion is going to be harder and harder for Jehovah's Witnesses to defend this. Somebody said the elders were afraid of my grandmother. She didn't take this crap. Before any of these changes happened, I had relatives that refused to stop talking to their family members. And they made it a point to talk to them at the hall. They made it a point to talk to them at the assembly. And nothing happened to them because they weren't afraid of the elders. They weren't afraid of the elders. My sister said, you got a text from who? I know you get a text from your dad. I was thinking about, my sister said she got a text because she ain't been, we ain't been to the meetings in years. You got a text? Did you get a text from your dad? Because I was literally thinking about calling your pops and saying, so, you growing a beard now? Like, my stepdad is elder, I think. And me and him aren't that close because it's not my actual father. And I hadn't talked to him in probably a decade or more. But when all these changes happened, I sat there and thought about, man, this dude got to be looking like a complete fool now. I wanted to call him and be like, so what you thinking about everybody can wear beards now? Sisters going to be chilling in their trousers at the hall now. Like, what's up now? All this is coming from the governing body. You better do it because that's your handlers, your slave masters told you. Boy, y'all can wear pants now because we say so. Boy, you can wear a beard now because we say so. I was about to mess with your pops over the phone, and I think one of the only reasons I didn't do it is I got busy doing something else. Plus, I didn't even know he would answer the phone. And typically, anytime I would call your dad, he'd always, oh, I'm busy this, oh, I'm busy that. I'm busy cleaning the toilet at the hall cleanup or something like that. But I was definitely thinking about it. I've called relatives. I don't know. I'll have to talk to my sister after this and tell her. But I've called relatives. No. I've texted relatives and been like, so this can happen and that can happen. And women can wear pants now. Look at all these changes. And the new governing body members are changing all the rules the old governing body members have had. And don't you know the relatives that I've sent those text messages to, they did not disagree with me. Like, this mess is waking people up. It don't necessarily mean that they're going to leave, but it's waking people up. When one person suffers from a delusion, it's called insanity. When many people suffer from a delusion, it's called religion. Excuse me. That's pretty good. Ricky said, I called my father at his work. I said, I just want to know if you will ever talk to me again. He said to me, I don't have time for this shit. That sounds like something a Jehovah's Witness would say. Somebody says, hit the thumbs up for Marcus. I just visited Kingdom Hall yesterday for the memorial, and I think from what I see makes sense. And thinking about a Bible study. You gotta be joking. You got to be joking. Watching them pass that funky wine around and don't nobody drink it. The only thing you worried about at the memorial is spilling the wine. Religion is works. Works will not save you, but maybe it might save a neighbor. Somebody says, I don't have time for this shit, but yeah, that sounds like a Jehovah's Witness. Cussing and all kinds of crazy stuff. They act holier than thou at the hall. He ain't gonna say, no, I don't have time for this shit at the hall in front of people, because that'll affect his, position and how he's viewed and his prominence. But and behind closed doors, Jehovah's Witness be cussing all the time. But I think that Watchtower, it's all downhill. It's all downhill. Do you really think People are going to flock to Watchtower now because they can wear pants. Come on now. It's going to have to be more changes. Do you think that these governments who are telling Watchtower we are not going to fund you because of human rights and all this other stuff and you're extremists, they're going to all of a sudden start giving them all kind of fundings because of pants and because of a beard? Because they said that you could say hi? No. So that's a double whammy for Watchtower. They done made these changes. These changes are going to cause them problems because they're telling everybody all this stuff is coming from the governing body, which that's new altogether. They for the longest time would tell everybody all this stuff is coming from Jehovah. Now they're flat out admitting it's coming from the governing body. Now they ain't gonna be able to control this stuff with guys just being relaxed, like chilling at the hall. Beard, no jacket, no tie, gotta wear none of that stuff. And you got all these people that don't even gotta go to the hall. They can just be on Zoom. Like really, like if you want to watch the college basketball March Madness and all that stuff, you ain't even gotta go to the meeting if your meeting is during March Madness. You can be on Zoom. But if you do go, you ain't got to wear no tie. Back in the day, the teaching was if you go to the hall, you're supposed to dress your best. You're supposed to dress your best because you there for Jehovah and you represent Jehovah. And it was Jehovah, 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 Jehovah. Now this religion has totally changed. It's totally changed. It's not about Jehovah. It's about the governing body. So now you ain't got to wear your best. Now you ain't got to have no tie. Now you ain't got to wear no jacket. Now you ain't got to wear a dress if you wear pants. Somebody said if the GB said deodorant was no longer necessary, you just have a whole bunch of people stinking at the hall, boy. Would nobody be it would definitely be a human rights violation to go to the hall if the governing body said deodorant was no longer necessary. So yeah, somebody said it. Their Bible is from the governing body. Now the governing body is flat out coming out in the open saying all this is coming from us. You got to realize how groundbreaking this is and how they can't say they didn't say it now. They can no longer say they didn't say it or we never taught that because they just did it on a broadcast. So you mean to tell me if all these teachers are coming from man, I don't even really got to follow them. This disfellowshipping thing, they just admitted over the last 100 years they didn't fully understand it. They didn't even they've been teaching a certain thing about disfellowshipping, and for 100 years they ain't understand it because they just now changing it even more. So why do people got to stick to something that the governing bodies admitted they don't even understand? Apparently, a JW and I'm guessing in good standing says shit to his son. I've heard JW's cuss before. Somebody said they thought the Bible was the word of God and then they improved it. Right. Why would you need to improve it then and make the New World Translation if the Bible was inspired of God and beneficial for teaching and for reproving and for setting things straight? It was already good how it was. Why you got to keep changing it? Somebody says I visited different churches and it seems to me that they are closest to what love is about. Yeah, that's true. I've been to churches before where they pray for everybody. They don't just pray for their denomination. Like Jehovah's Witnesses only care about other Jehovah's Witnesses. I've seen Baptist churches pray for everybody. I don't ever see them allowing gays. What is a new understanding of 1914? Somebody is clowning. Somebody says Toni Morris will say sisters can now wear Spanx. What's Toni Morris going to say about tight pants now? Tight pants, Toni? You're going to have sisters wearing tight pants and brothers wearing tight pants. So now what? Toni going to lose his mind now. So I think that these changes are going to lead to further collapse. Cheryl got to go. I understand I was being a little silly, but in all seriousness, I would design something with the Worth coat. Shoot, as far as I know, Toni Morris got him a house, and he probably chilling in there with some scotch. Watchtown ain't got to worry about Tony being drunk all through Bethel no more. They done got him a house. They're like, dude, stay in your house and drink. You ain't got to worry about no being anointed no more. Don't be drinking up all our wine at the memorial. Just stay in your house that we bought you and get drunk all day long in that bad boy if you want. Somebody said, I like my local Assembly of God. They have it the closest that I have found so far. But a lot of churches do things that you could say are loving as far as helping the poor, having food drives, uh, having scholarships for kids, and just all kinds of stuff like that. Somebody said Scotch Tower. But ultimately, I would say, because when you say the cult won't last 10 years, you got to understand the numbers of people who are going to die off in the next 10 years. So shoot, add 15. So if you say in the next 10 years, think about the numbers of people. So we're talking about the cult is falling, the tower's falling, and it ain't going to be around in the next 10 years. Think about how realistic that is. People in their 50s in the next 10 years will be 60. That's why I'm like, I don't know that bad boy going to be around in 15. Because in 15 years, people in their 50s going to be in their 60s. They ain't going to be able to do much. A lot of them are going to die off. So you talking in the next 10, 15 years, all these older people, the older people that gave me the tracts or the people that gave me the invitation to the memorial, both of them were older. The sisters that were working the other side of the street, they're older. In the next 10, 15 years, they dead. So all the people that were working our area, they're all dead in the next 10, 15 years. Next 10, 15 years, you got a bunch of Jehovah's Witnesses that are used to talking to disfellowship people. They got beards. They ain't got no ties no more. Women walking around, they all got pants. Who knows what other changes? The religion is not going to exist in its current form in 10 to 15 years. When you say so many of the other Russellites are still around, you talking about the Bible students? Oh, okay? So you saying that they'll be around because the Bible students are still around? Well, one thing about the Bible students, I don't think they flip flop like Jehovah's Witnesses have. Somebody said at 60, I'm stronger than most at 35. That might be true, but At 60, a lot of people ain't as strong as they were at 35. That ain't the case for a lot of people. And I remember, not to be offensive or anything like that, but my sister's dad, my stepdad, I haven't seen him in a decade or more, and he wasn't looking in good shape back when I did see him. So yeah, 10 to 15 years from now, I don't know if my man's is gonna make it. It's gonna be completely different. Everything is gonna be completely different. You're gonna have a whole subsection of Jehovah's Witnesses all gonna be dead. They're not bringing in a whole lot more people. This is gonna be more of a African cult than probably an American cult. It's probably going to be half dead in America. It's already half dead in America. The only place I can think of is someplace off in Africa where they ain't got no internet. It's where it might flourish, but then they're going to have competition. But yeah, the Bible students are still around. They're a small group. They still exist. But Bible students, from my understanding, you correct me if I'm wrong, they ain't flip-flopped on a bazillion things. They ain't made as much of a mess of their religion as Watchtower has. Changing everything, flip-flopping on everything, getting everything wrong. I think the Bible students still use the old studies in the scriptures and things like that Charles Taze Russell wrote. Somebody says, Marcus, I've been saying what you have been saying since the 80s, but they are still around by they. I'm guessing talking about Jehovah's Witnesses. But they collapsing. They are collapsing. You can see the evidence of the collapse. Now, it's going to take time for them all literally to fleshly die off totally. But when you, like me, for example, never see Jehovah's Witnesses going door to door again anymore, that is major. Like, that is a major fall from where they were. When you see them all run around with beards and all kinds of stuff like that, that is a major jump from where they were. When you see them all banned from Russia and all kinds of other places, that's a major jump from where they were. So you got stuff that's ruins and it's still there. Like, you got old castles that can't be lived in anymore. They're ruins. You just see a pile of rubble. Technically, that bad boy is still there, but it don't resemble nothing of what it used to be back in the day when it was a full castle. It's ruins. It's rubble now. That's what Watchtower is. Watchtower is ruins. It's rubble. Somebody saying, I hope you're right. No, in the next 10, 15 years, it's going to be a lot of dead Jehovah's Witnesses. It's going to be a whole lot of people that's died off. The face of this thing is going to be completely different. A lot of the old governing body members will be dead or on their way. You're going to have Stephen Lett being wheeled around in a wheelchair by then. Which means you're going to have all new people and even more changes. So the cult that we were a part of, the name will be the same, but the teachings and the rules and it's going to be completely different. Somebody said in my dad's hall, it's 95% elderly. In the next 10, 15 years, it's going to be 95% gone. Like, them elderly people ain't going to live for forever. Somebody said it's all astrology. Jesus is the sun, the light of the world. It goes back to Hinduism, but ultimately it's what man knew from the beginning the battle between light and dark, good and evil. Sandy Man won't rest, though. He seems like the new Tony. Who is Sandy Man? Hold on, I'll be right back. Oh, back. Somebody said Marcus got elders at his door. If I did, I'd bring this glass of water to pour on their head. I'd have to moisten their beard with this glass of water and splash it all over their faces. But it's hilarious. It's hilarious to the point of cults still being around. Heck, Heaven's Gate, the cult that poisoned themselves with applesauce and all kinds of stuff like that. Like, they're still around. There's still people. After that first group committed suicide, I think it was another group that still did it. Like, they're still around, but they ain't never going nowhere. You will never have to worry about them being a major player in religion. I don't hardly ever see nothing. I hardly ever see Scientologists. They're still around, but you will never have to worry about them being a major player or anything like that anymore. I was thinking about somebody else also. The Branch Davidians, like the people that were following David Koresh. There's still people that think David Koresh was Jesus. Bernie probably sleep. Serenity asked him what Bernie doing. Bernie probably sleep. If I had a bag of treats or something, I could rattle it around and he'd definitely be around here. But Bernie over there knocked out. It's rainy here. It's rainy. Bernie was outside. That's the dog. And it started raining. He's ready to come right on back in. So he's asleep. Said who committed suicide? Heaven's Gate. Look up Heaven's Gate. Heaven's Gate committed suicide. Somebody said Jim Jones. You got to understand, if Jim Jones was still around, there's people that would still follow him. Oh man, talk about a cult that's about to die out. What is the name of that group? That the leader was black. The cult leader is black. He was telling everybody he was God. Then, of course, he died, and then they had to come up with a story. Yeah, I did do a video. Someone, Reverend Tim Duncan, talking about, is Bethel really a place of holiness? Come on now, you know it's not. Even Bethel is complaining about all that masturbating going on. Even Bethel was complaining about it. They making videos telling everybody to stop masturbating as if they're going to stop. They're going to masturbate to the video that the Bethel produced talking about not to masturbate. They're going to cut that on to masturbate to that. So no, Bethel is not no place of holiness. Bethel is just a place with a bunch of Jehovah's Witnesses there from all over. It's no more holy than anything else. I'm trying to remember the name of that cult. I can't remember the name of the cult. But I think they called the cult leader Daddy or something like that. And he had a rule where the members couldn't, the women would have to stay with the women and the men with the men. And because of that, they weren't having a bunch of kids. So now this is literally a cult, and the guy ended up making all kinds of money, and he bought this huge house, and he's dead now. So the cult meets at the house where he used to live, and they're all in their 50s, 60s, 70s, like they're about to die off. Like literally, it's just a group of older people that meet, and they're about to die off. I cannot remember the name of the cult at all. Uh, I'd have to be able to look it up. I'd have to be able to Google that. Somebody said Royal Lee Jenkins. But the point is these cults have collapsed though. I mean, you know what I mean? They're pretty much over with. You don't have to ever worry about the Branch Davidians becoming no major player like David Koresh probably wanted. They're never going to reach what David Koresh probably wanted them to reach. You always going to have a couple people that are looking for something odd to join. Aleister Crowley's stuff, like Aleister Crowley, the Ordo Templi Orientis and all that stuff. Crowley's dead now, but there's still people joining his groups. Like there's always going to be a person that wants to be special and is going to look for something kind of out there or odd and join it. So somebody said Malachi Z. York. That's not the cult that I was thinking about. That's the Nuwapians. Malachi Z. York was the Nuwapians. And the crazy thing is I was interested in how this guy started the cult, Malachi Z. York. So there are a lot of his sermons still online. So I was like, man, let me listen to some of this stuff because I want to know. Father Divine, Jane hit it on the head. Father Divine. It was the black guy that was telling everybody he was God. I think his name was Father Divine. He died, and he essentially made something that was kind of like Bethel, where people would work and live in this little compound, but the women stayed with the women, the men stayed with the men. You never heard of Father Divine? Like, you got to do your research. There are so many cults. So think about, I'm trying to remember this. If y'all have y'all computers, there are so many cults. There are so many of them. But yeah, Father Divine started a cult, and it was interesting because he married a white woman, and this was way back in the day when racism was still around and everything. So, and he married a white woman and started this huge cult and was making all this money, and he was doing it during all that time. And the cult, somebody got to look up the name of the cult, but the cult is still around. It's just, they're about all dead. But I think Father Divine and Mother God should have had baby. But I think they had some rule where they weren't supposed to have sex or something like that. And of course, what does that mean? That your cult is going to die off. You're not replacing your members as they die off. But you got to wonder, how does that affect the guy who starts the cult? Because as his members die off, he know he ain't going to be around. So why does it matter to him that his cult dies off after he ain't going to be around either? So, but yeah, Father Divine, he started a cult. Malachi Z. York, and the Nuwapians. International Peace Mission Movement is the name of the group. They're still around. They have a YouTube documentary on them. They're still around. But they're about to die off. Somebody said JW membership growing in third world countries. I like to test that, because from what I've seen in them third world countries, them Jehovah's Witnesses had these little huts made out of mud and straw, and they little huts ain't no bigger than no church. Like, I don't know that there ain't no third world country where no Jehovah's Witnesses are bigger than anybody. You know what I mean? So I don't think they that big anywhere, really. But yeah, you got a lot of cults. I looked up this cult, and it was a newer cult. So when you go back, there were people, and a lot of these cults surround Masons. It's something to do with people who pursue the Masonic order. It's got to be something to do with that mindset, that I'm not just looking to join a church, I'm looking to join the Masons. Something to do with that mindset. A lot of these people create their own group. Somebody said 8.9 million publishers. They must, about 4 million of people got to be dead that they counting. Where in the world they got some 8.9 million publishers? I drive around and don't even see no Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, somebody says the Masons are great, I am one. But a lot of people that get involved with the Masons go and start their own cult. Joseph Smith. What is it about you join the Masons and then you get this idea, I'm going to start my own cult? Charles Taze Russell, all these people. Yeah, Father Divine had a cult called Peace Mission Movement, where everybody thought he was God, literally. Somebody said it's been 8 million since 1998. I don't know who in the world they counting to be getting to some 8 million. But they got to be counting the people that have left. They have to be counting people that left. That is 100% propaganda. Somebody said Russell wasn't a Mason. Whether he was a Mason or wasn't a Mason, he had to have done some research on the Masonic order, because he was using the same symbols and all that stuff. So a person, like for example, if I'm studying about the Masons and I'm getting into the symbols and different things like that, don't necessarily make me a Mason. But there has to have something to do with that type of interest, learning about esoteric things and occult things, and somewhere along that path, people get the idea, I'm going to make my own. But yeah, Masons do have some nice art. Yeah, Charles Taze Russell buried under a Mason pyramid and all that stuff. Like, but that's the thing. That's another thing about these cults. Says Charles Taze Russell got a divorce. His wife accused him of mental torture. Like, so you got all these people. Wasn't Ellen G. White another person that started a cult? Like, she literally started hearing voices and stuff like that, and everybody just believed her. Why don't people look at the individuals closest to the person who's trying to start the cult? Like, if somebody's telling you that God is talking to them and all kinds of things like that, and their wife is telling you that this person is crazy. You know what I mean? Like, you might want to look at some of that stuff. Like, where's this whole family at? Like, if a person is literally talking to God, you don't think that they significant other or their family or somebody like that might be one of their first believers? Or if a person is crazy, it's a good chance their relatives and significant other are going to be the first person to know, yeah, this person crazy. They ain't talking to no God. There is no truth in the truth. I don't even know if Jehovah's Witnesses could call it the truth anymore. Now that the governing body done came out and said all the teachings are coming from them, you can't even call it the truth no more. So that's huge. I want to see Jehovah's Witnesses calling it the truth when their teachings are coming from men and the men have come up and admitted, yeah, this is the governing body making these decisions. It's no longer the truth. It's just a group of men making rules. Somebody said, do you believe we went to the moon? You got to do your research about all that stuff. Yeah, Ellen G. White is the Seventh-day Adventist leader. But there are a lot of cults. There are a lot of them. There was a guy who used to be a slave. I don't know if he bought his freedom or what, but when he became free, he joined the Masons and then started his own church. So there's some church called the Church of the True God of Prophecy or something like that. And believe it or not, I looked them up, I Googled them and did some research. And yeah, there's a church that was started by a guy who used to be a slave. They still got his old black and white picture. And the people who are the pastors talk like they still talk to the guy. The guy's been dead for a long time, but they talk as if they still speak to the guy. Like they believe this guy is still, this old, guy that used to be a slave is still up leading their church or whatnot. Like, there are so many cults that we don't even know about. Exactly. How can God only be talking to the goofballs on the compound, but you're supposed to have your own personal relationship with God? That don't make no sense at all. You're supposed to have your own personal relationship with God, but he don't talk to you. He talking to somebody else. How you going to have a personal relationship with God if he only talked to the governing body or he only talked to Ellen G. White? Like, it's just a little thought. Like, some things only take a small bit of thought and you figure out that it don't make no sense. Somebody said, yeah, a lot of cults out there, anything whack or sex related with worship, not doing it. I can't remember if it was Crowley, but somebody, Aleister Crowley or somebody, had to have sex before they did their rituals. Like, that's where they got their power from, according to them. And people went with it. When you really start doing your research, one of these days I'm going to bring the laptop and we're going to just do our research on all these cults. And I'm going to show you all these cults. And it's literally darn near anybody that claims to have some sort of special knowledge, people start becoming interested. And eventually they can create a following. They may not have no special knowledge. They may not be able to take care of their own darn selves. Like, they may have all kind of problems in the world. And it's like, if you're talking to God, why you got all these problems? You know what I mean? But why are you struggling if you're talking to God? But it's so easy. People are looking. People are always looking for something, some easy answer. And it's definitely easier if somebody else tells them, well, I got all the answers, just do whatever I say. But I don't think that the cult will be around uh, logically. If you just use logic, people are going to die off in the next 10, 15 years, more than they already got died off. That alone is going to lessen the members. They're not really going door to door like they used to. God is an obedient department of the government. That's interesting. That's interesting. Y'all getting into some interesting topics, talking about, is there a such thing as demons? Do you believe in good and bad forces? Those are things you got to do your research on. You got to really dig. You got to collect information. And based off the information and the evidence, make decisions. Somebody said they were having demonic attacks. How do you prove or disprove that? You got to do your research. You can't always be listening to what somebody else tells you. A lot of people, the way they know this or that is because they didn't ask somebody else. How you know they didn't make it up? You can't just go to the governing body. The governing body constantly changing stuff because they're just making it up as they go along. Somebody says demons are real. I had one. Somebody says I only believe in things that are logical and reasonable when using critical thinking, not superstitious, magical thinking. It's like really, to a certain extent, it's hard to disprove things, but at the same time, you can definitely say that you're not going to make decisions based off of something that you're not sure about or you don't know. You know what I mean? So if somebody's like, if you mix certain roots together and say a certain spell, this will heal cancer. Well, shoot, you better still, even if you do that, you still want to go get your treatments and still go to the doctor until you done prove that this mixture this person is talking about is works or not. But yeah, the mind is definitely a complicated thing. We do not understand it at all. I think some people do understand manipulation, and that's why it's so easy for all these cults. Another thing about Watchtower that ended up being something that people cling to is this thing about spirits don't exist. We're going to have to get into more depth about that. How do you know? How do you not know? So a person that has an experience with spirits, how are you going to tell them they didn't? What if you never have had an experience with spirits? Does that mean that they don't exist? Does that mean, you know what I mean? Can you make a definitive statement involving everyone based off of just one person's experience? I've heard of families that somebody said it's the Bible that is planting all these ideas in our heads. Yeah, I've heard of families where one person is hearing voices, nobody else hears it. Now, is the person crazy? Is the person really hearing the voices? Like, it'd be interesting to see how we can really get to the bottom of it and come to an understanding of what's really going on. But I definitely think the tower is falling. And when they got up on stage and said the governing body has decided, boy, they just kicked themselves in their own behinds. because you done changed 100 years of tradition of a bunch of Jehovah's Witnesses that don't know they up from down believing that Jehovah is making the decisions. You just flat out admitted to all of them. You done told them all. No, it's the governing body that's making all these changes, all these decisions. And the governing body don't at any one time fully understand anything. That's why they are constantly making changes, because they never fully grasp anything. Isn't there a scripture that says always learning but never coming to a full accurate knowledge? Isn't that the governing body? They never came to a full accurate knowledge because they constantly got to change stuff because they constantly messing up. I'll tell you one thing. Somebody says, as black people, you should know the Bible is black history. The Bible is very real. Spirits are very real. I'm going to have to have some of these people on here, and we'll just do a live and break it down and figure out the why and the why not. So for me, I haven't come forward and said spirits are real, spirits are not real, so on and so forth. I can say that I've heard voices before, that I've seen things that didn't fully make sense before. And I've heard voices on more than one occasion. So somebody said, what did the governing body say? The governing body said that people can wear beards. Guys ain't got to wear no jackets. You ain't got to wear no tie. Women can wear pants. You could say a greeting to disfellowship people, which is going to be huge because everybody ain't going to just say hi. Some people going to be giving hugs. Some people going to be talking for a lot longer than what the governing body want them to. But yeah, they made all them changes. So I heard voices when I was a kid. I was going to sleep. It was all dark. And I heard voices. It was like somebody's whispering, and it's like their face was right here to my ear. That's like the sound. If somebody's whispering, not loud at all, but you hear it real good because their voice, their mouth is right here. It was like a disembodied person was doing it, because you're not going to feel lips and you're not going to feel wind from a person's breath, but the voice is just that. You hear it clear. So I'm a kid raised in this cult. So obviously I think it's a demon. My first reaction is I think this voice is a demon. So I start praying. I'm afraid to move. That's one thing as a kid was my reaction to anything I thought was a ghost or something. I would just be real still in bed because I'm like, I don't want them to see that I'm awake. Somebody says spirits are just energy. Sometimes it manifests into things unexplained. So let me tell the rest of this experience. So as a kid, I don't know, I'm probably like 8 or 9. As a kid, I'm hearing this voice, and it's talking fast, and it's talking in my ear, and I don't understand because I don't think it's what it's saying don't sound like English. It's not English what it's saying, but if you know, it's a huge difference between gibberish and somebody speaking a language. Because a language is like, this person is saying something and it's ordered and organized and it sounds like some sort of a language. That's how that was. So I'm a kid getting ready to go to sleep. I got my blanket up. I'm hearing all this talking in my ears. One person, the person it sounded like a female. Believe it or not, it sounded like if you were to hear the voice and not see the person, it wouldn't scare you because it wasn't a raw voice. It was a soft, sound like a female voice, and it wasn't English, and they were saying a whole lot. And I freeze. I don't want to, you know what I mean, move. I'm thinking if it thinks that I'm asleep, maybe it'll go away. But as I'm listening, I start to feel myself fade. It felt like you start losing consciousness. You start to feel your heartbeat slow. And it scared me because I'm like, am I dying? Like, what the heck? So I shake myself loose. I start yelling Jehovah and all this other stuff because I was raised in that cult. I thought that was what you do. Eventually, the voice went away. Now, I didn't hear another voice. Like, it wasn't like I was just hearing voices. I heard it that one time. And then the next time I heard a voice, I've only heard it speak English once. The next time I heard a voice, you got to fast forward to Bethel. I'm at Bethel. I'm in the produce processing. And there ain't nobody else there. Like, I'm the only one there, and I'm cleaning. I'm spraying all the debris into the grate, because what you would do is spray it all into the grate, pick up the grate. The stuff would be on it. You would bang the grate over the trash can and put it back. I'm hearing the same female. I'm telling you, this is a voice that cannot scare you because it sounds like a soft-spoken woman. The same female is like, Marcus, no. Like, I'm doing something that don't make no sense. But I couldn't figure out what. I turned around, there's nobody there. There's a door. I walk all the way to the door, open it, look, there's nobody in the halls. There ain't nobody there. Somebody said, Marcus, no. And it was the same female voice, but it was speaking English that time. Never explained, what do you mean, no? Like, no what? Maybe it was telling me this whole Bethel thing was BS. If it was right. Didn't hear another voice. Keep in mind, this is when I'm 8 when I first hear the voice, and it scares me, and whatever it's saying is making me feel like I'm fading into nothingness. So I shook loose of it. I don't know if it had good intentions. I don't know if it had bad intentions. I don't know what was going on. Sometimes I was thinking, well, maybe I was asleep. Maybe that was a dream. I was wide awake, standing up, working at Bethel the next time I heard it. So there was a gap of years before I hear it again. Somebody says, you think it's stress. I don't know. If it's stress, you would think I would hear it more often. Other than once every 10 to 15 years. So, other than that, Marcus, no, I don't hear nothing else. Maybe I was that stressed as a little kid. I don't know. So I hear it once, I'm probably 8 or 9. The next time I hear it, I'm probably like 23, somewhere around there. Then the next time I hear it, this is after Bethel. So this is some years later, because after Bethel, I went to New Jersey for a while. And then from New Jersey, I went back to Ohio. This is back after I went back to Ohio. I hear the voice, and it's speaking in another language again. So I'm staying with a relative at the time. I'm at the relative's house. I'm laying in bed. I'm wide awake because it's daytime, and I got the TV on. I hear the voice, and every time it's like, whoa, because it's like it's so many years in between hearing it. It's the female again. It's the female voice, and it's talking in another language. So I'm listening, and I'm not going to understand what it is you're saying. You know what I mean? I'm not saying this out loud, but whatever this thing is kind of playful because it bopped me on the head. Now it wasn't hard. It wasn't like, bam. It was just like, whatever it's telling me, I think it feels like I'm doing something stupid. Because it's like, boop, almost like fake. You know what I mean? And I think this is before I was fully awake also. After I fully woke up from the cult, I haven't heard the voice anymore. So I don't know if this thing was just trying to get me out the cult or what, but after I woke up from the cult, I have not heard from it since. But yeah, it booped me, not on the nose, but on the head. It was like, boop. It starts speaking in this soft language where it's hard to get scared. It's hard to, there's a voice, but you can't get scared because it's so soft spoken. And it's so, sounds like a teenage girl. You know what I mean? Like, but to this day, since then, I have not heard it since. Haven't heard it since. You know what I mean? I ain't been looking for it or anything like that either. But when people talk about spirits don't exist and all this other stuff, logically, I want to agree. I want to agree logically, but then how do you explain all that? How do you explain all that? Is my question. Stress? You mean to tell me I've only been stressed? How many times is that? Once, twice? I've only been stressed 3 or 4 times in my life to where, you know what I mean? Well, I've only ever heard this 3 or 4 times in my whole life, spaced out between years. How do you, oh, I did have another experience when I was asleep. Now this could have been a dream. I was asleep and I felt like something had grabbed me and was dragging my body, but I couldn't wake up. It's almost like if you go to sleep and you feel somebody grab your legs and literally start dragging you, you're going to wake up. Well, for some reason, I felt like myself, like I was just being dragged. Like you can even feel your shirt raising up from, you being pulled across the floor. And for some reason, I couldn't wake up. And I heard somebody say, Marcus, wake up. This sounded just like my grandmother. Voice sounded 1,000,000,000 times like my grandmother. Now, that I don't particularly attribute to anything because it's not like the voices that I heard when I was wide awake. This, I know I was asleep. So after she was like, Marcus, wake up. I woke up and, you know what I mean? I was still in bed sleep. So you can definitely have realistic dreams, but you're typically asleep. I don't know if you can have dreams where you're hearing voices and you're awake. My grandma used to say that was the Hanks riding your back. There was another situation I had where there were people at the hall that was saying that they were hearing voices. Now, I have a relative. This relative, I knew that these people were saying that they heard voices. This relative did not know. So I'm at home, I'm worried because I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I might hear. This is when I was a Jehovah's Witness. I never heard the voice. But I came downstairs, was getting ready to go out in field service, or no, I think I just got back from field service, something like that. Whatever the case is, I was downstairs. Relative comes from upstairs, comes downstairs, looks at me and jumps. And they're like, who you got upstairs in your room? I'm like, nobody. I've been downstairs. They're like, oh, so you left your TV on upstairs. I was like, I ain't had the TV on. They're like, well, who do I hear talking in your room? And in my head, I'm thinking, That's them voices. Half the congregation is saying that they're hearing. So I done had experiences where how do you explain that? Was somebody talking outside and I didn't hear them, but the relative heard it coming from my room? Because I went upstairs, went in my room, thinking, oh my goodness, I'm a Jehovah's Witness back then, so I'm thinking it's a demon. Thinking it's a demon in my room. I didn't hear no voice. TV was not on. I went to sleep that night. Boy, you know what I mean? I went to sleep just knowing I'm about to hear voices or knowing I'm about to see stuff moving around. No voices, nothing moved around. I wasn't hearing it, but other people were. Whatever this stuff is, I don't say that it doesn't exist. It just don't make sense to where it's unpredictable. You know what I mean? It's unpredictable. The voices that I heard when I was 8 and then at Bethel and then years after Bethel, I can't cause it to happen again. I don't know what it was. So somebody said they had the same experience. Hold on, guys. I'll be right back again. It ain't the elders. The elders are not here. If they were, I'd get the water hose out on them. All right, I'm back. So as far as somebody says you would first need to show that paranormal things exist, then you could start categorizing them that way. Well, the problem with that is if you can't control it, you know what I mean? Like if I could cause the voice to happen again, which it ain't ever happened again, then I could have somebody else there. I could see if they could hear something. I could see if we could try to talk with it or something like that. But it has never happened again. I can't control when it happens. So how do I measure something like that? The same thing with when you call it the paranormal, you're talking about things that happen. People can't predict when it happens. I have heard of Robert King. I don't know. I've heard the name sounds familiar. Seems like random brain activity. Is possible it could be random brain activity. Why this brain activity has not happened again since, I don't know. But that's the thing is our guess is as good as anybody else's. Somebody says you're talking to a bunch of unbelievers of the Bible, you won't get anywhere. Y'all are going in circles. But that's the thing is you gotta keep it real though. So an atheist may have reasons as to why they came to that conclusion. But you gotta keep it real though and not pretend like you know if a person says they heard voices when they were 8, and then again when they were at Bethel, and then again once more after they left Bethel, you can't say this is the reason that happened. It was not paranormal. It was not that, if you don't know. You know what I mean? So it's the same with a person who is not atheist. You know what I mean? And you're dealing with stuff that if we don't have control over it, like electricity, we can measure it because electricity is going to act the same way in nature to the point where we can measure it. We can even harness it. When you're talking about certain paranormal things, you ain't got no way to measure it. You ain't got no way to control it. What I think is false are all these people saying that they've got all the answers. You know what I mean? Somebody says, I don't believe energies can be controlled, but it can be tapped into. The interaction will depend on you, frequency at the moment. So what I think is false are all these people that get together and say, I'm the source of all this stuff. I talk to all these things. I've got all the answers. Come to me. Whenever it gets to the point where somebody's like, I'm going to try to build a following off of this, well, then that's when I start questioning it. Or if a person's trying to make money off of it, then that's when I start questioning. When the person's talking about, I'm a prophet, you know what I mean? They're a prophet, and then they get laid off, but then they didn't know that they were getting laid off, but you're a prophet, you see the future. Like, it's that sort of thing that don't make sense. Now, the paranormal activity actually happening, I don't believe that that's impossible, that for that to happen and for us to just not understand it yet. There's a ton of stuff we don't understand. Anybody can experience a spirit. You have to know what you're doing. I don't play with demons. I can give you many scriptures to back it up. Yeah, there's plenty of scriptures to back up uh, supernatural activity. Somebody says, can I be a moderator for you? I want to help you and your community out. We will have to get together and discuss that. Marcus, did you hear about the recent sex cult in Atlanta, Georgia? I knew about that before. So you talk about Nature Boy. I knew about Nature Boy before the court case. Before Nature Boy got himself in all kind of trouble and was in court and all that stuff, I knew about Nature Boy. I just never took it serious. I knew this was a group of people that were going to live in some sort of community and be out in nature. I saw one of his videos where he was online talking. So in my research and looking up different groups and listening to different people and their opinions, I've heard Nature Boy before, but I didn't follow him. So then I hear about him again, and he in all kind of trouble. Matter of fact, he ain't beyond in trouble. He done got sentenced and all kinds of stuff, as far as I know. But yeah, I think that's the problem. There may be realities that we have not discovered, that we don't fully understand. Keep in mind, the country is primarily focused on, drugs that make money for them. You know what I mean? So a lot of our technology is going into drugs that make money, into weaponry. A lot of our technology goes into weaponry so we can control other people. I don't think the government is putting a whole lot of resources into studying those supernatural stuff. So it's going to be a lot of stuff that we just don't understand. So, I mean, I wouldn't say that these things don't exist. I wouldn't flat out say that they do exist. I just think there is a whole area that I don't think we have put a lot of technology into researching and studying. The only part of society that has, I guess, spent a lot of time in is religion. And a lot of religions, they build wealth for themselves. So they may only get into it, but so much. Christianity, their opinion on it is to not get involved in it. You know what I mean? Christianity is all about, hey, don't get involved with none of that stuff. Christianity says it exists, just don't get involved in it. Probably most other religions will say it exists, just don't get involved in it. So this is something that is just untapped. There are people that try to get involved in it and do research it. I don't think that they can control it, though. Now you got people goofing off in the chat. But yeah, no, I think let Chip be goofy. Chip might be a barber. He's trying to promote his business. You know, have these people that be joking around online. If they get online right now, like literally they get on right now, they be bald. They had like one strand of hair and they be right in the middle of their head. Like it's the internet. It's the internet. The internet is just a place where people get real bold. They say stuff they would never say before. But it's funny though. It's funny though, because now you got people saying all kind of silly stuff that they would never say like in public, in front of people, you know, whatnot. Internet is where people just hide behind a computer. But I definitely think that Watchtower is, I think it's over. I think it is over. I 100% think it's over. I think that them getting up on stage and announcing this is all coming from the governing body and we trying to change it all to appeal to the government so we can get funding, you can't come back from that. They'll never be able to, at a future time, switch it up and say, oh, no, this is all coming from Jehovah. No, they didn't already admit it's all coming from them. So they done, Watchtower likes to blame apostates, but Watchtower is the primary source of all of our ammunition. Watchtower is the biggest apostate against Watchtower. Watchtower causes its own problems. Most people who are apostates, they get their information, they get all their ammo from Watchtower, get them on these broadcasts, making fools of themselves. Somebody said next time you hear voices, make sure you get the Powerball number. When I was hearing them, they wasn't speaking English most of the time. And when I was a kid, it scared the mess out of me, so I wasn't thinking to answer no questions. And then when I was at Bethel, it literally said 2 words, and that was it. Like, this thing ain't conversational. It just says what it wants to say and go on about the business. I don't know. I don't know, because somebody says schizophrenia, drugs, alcohol, lack of sleep, stress, religious priming. It wasn't schizophrenia, because I mean you ain't gonna be a schizophreniac just 3 times in your life. It wasn't drugs, because I hadn't taken no drugs. Definitely wasn't alcohol. I wasn't allowed to have alcohol when I was 8. Lack of sleep. When you 8, you don't even need sleep. I could play video games all day and night. Stress? I don't know if I was so stressed as an 8-year-old I was hearing voices. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying is you put a lot of explanations there. The supernatural or magical whatnot We don't know. We don't know if it was any of those things that were mentioned. That's the point. We don't even have a way to determine what it was. Somebody said, look behind you. They ain't gonna work on me. Ain't gonna scare me. It was creative release. I don't know. Me and Serenity had an experience where we saw something that looked like it was not. So we were out going for a walk. And you can't say that this is schizophrenia because we both saw it. We were out going for a walk, and we're in an area where there weren't very many other houses. There wasn't nothing really out there. We look up, we see all these lights. There's this long line of lights, and they're all moving in unison, and they're blinking and whatnot. And I'm like, first thing in my mind is that ain't no plane. And there ain't no such thing as no group of planes that are all going to be all in unison, lined up, flying together. So I'm looking at this stuff. Serenity sees it, but I think she's seen stuff like that before. But this is my first time seeing it. And it's like, dude, are we looking right at a UFO? And then Serenity starts waving at this object that's flying in the sky. She's waving, hey, all that stuff. And I'm looking at her like, I don't know if you want to get this thing's attention and let it know we see it. But so after she does that, and she will attest to this, the whole thing vanishes. Like, we've heard of cloaking, but we've heard of it based off of watching TV. It was like the thing finds out, oh yeah, people see us, and it just cloaks. So, I mean, come on now, like, we both saw that. There are so many things that we don't have answers for, and the answer to everything can't just be it don't exist. You know what I mean? So I mean, it could have been aliens. I strongly think whatever it was, we don't got that type of technology, type of a thing. Somebody says it's a Starlink satellite system. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was, but I just know it was not no plane, wasn't no airplane. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's a lot out there. I have to look up Starlink and see what that is. Yeah, I have to look up Starlink and figure out what that is. But yep, if you have another discussion with Jehovah's Witnesses and they trying to talk about this is the truth or that is the truth, they can't use that no more. Their source is the governing body. They done came out and said it. The source is the governing body. We'll have to have another live discussion. Serenity's out of town. We'll have to see if she'll want to do another live, and maybe we could dig into some of that and discuss some of that. But I have it set up to where I can actually see the comments now. It says depends on the year you saw it. I just know it's a lot out there, and I don't think a lot of effort has gone into researching and studying. And there are a ton of people that say that they seen extraterrestrials or flying saucers or whatever you call it, UFOs. Stuff that they don't know what the heck it is, but they know it ain't human. So We'll have to discuss more of those things next time. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening. X Wall Kill Bethelite signing out.